Hello, everybody, and welcome to Self Publishing Insiders. I'm Jim Azevedo, and sitting here with me is Dan Wood, our Chief Operations Officer, and we're trying to get Mark Lefebvre in here as well. He was kind of doing his little robot dance over there and freezing off and on a bit. But welcome, everybody, and thanks for
He is
joining
on the
us.
Canadian internet, so it's a little bit slower.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, he was looking good there for a while. His lighting was
Yeah,
perfect. His sound quality was perfect. But thanks everybody for joining. Uh, typically, Dan and I were talking about this last week. Typically, when we do an Ask Us Anything, we kind of center it around a certain category, like book cover images, or D2D print, or draft to digital promotions, things like that. And I was asking Dan, like, well, what's the topic going to be this time? And Dan suggested, let's just open it up, like whatever they want to talk about. We'll let anybody ask any questions that they may want to ask, and we'll just keep it flowing. So it's all yours, folks. Like, if you have any question about anything that Drafted Digital does, or even questions that are outside the realm of what Drafted Digital does, we're happy to field those questions and give you the best possible answers that we can.
yeah, and feel free questions about Smashwords itself, the store, everything. There's been a lot going on this year, so we figured there's probably a lot of questions out there, and it's been an exciting time for us. We've been growing faster than ever, so we thank all of you for writing great books and distributing them through us.
Absolutely. Could not do it without you. And Mark, you are muted, just so that you know.
I know. I was just clearing my throat. I one of the things is since I was just got back from a conference, the Right Women's Book Fest in Bowie, Maryland. Fantastic conference, and I did a presentation on 10 ways you could leverage draft to digital, and also something I posted to the 20 Books Vegas group on Facebook. Um, I wanted to just remind people of Smashboard Store. And when you distribute to the Smashboard Store, I don't think a lot of authors know there's so many cool things we do that authors don't realize that at the lowest end for your books that you're publishing at the Smashboard Store, you're making, I have it written here, so 56.78% at the very lowest, so 99 cents. And that as your shopping cart increases and get more titles to it, even if you have a 99-cent book, so long as the dollar value of the shopping cart goes up and up and up, you can make upwards of 80, 81%. So at $1.99, you're making 69. So you're making basically the same as you get going direct to any platform. At $2.99, you're making 74%. At the standard, I think a lot of authors are now setting their $4.99 US price for a lot of their full-length novels. And at $4.99 on the Smashboard Store, you're making a 77.42%. So I just wanted to remind authors of that really coolness that they may not take advantage of or be aware that they can take advantage of.
Yeah, those high royalty rates. Absolutely. I wanted to ask you guys, since we're entering into the fourth quarter here already this year, I mean, talk about years flying by. Looking back over the year, what are some of the trends, or what are the top of mind topics that have bubbled up? Like, what are the obvious things that you see that kind of overplayed everything else?
I know for us, we've seen consistent growth since the pandemic in library sales, and so that's been very exciting.
Mm,
Mark Lefebvre recently represented us at Overdrive has their own conference where they bring in librarians called
right.
Digipalooza. And so just getting him there and talking to librarians and pushing our catalog and trying to help them understand what a great deal indie books are to libraries. A lot of talk this year around AI,
Mhm.
obviously.
Yeah.
Fears, concerns, people were excited about it. The different ways it might help with marketing,
Hmm.
ways it might help with putting together a novel, all those different things. Direct sales have also been
Yeah.
a pretty big topic at at the conferences we've been at. Definitely something that's exciting. It's some new opportunities for authors. Definitely comes with its own drawbacks, and I think people realize it's very hard to market to your particular website to get new readers. But as far as like converting existing super fans over and being able to make a little bit more, uh, you know, your super fans are going to want to support you the best way they can. And so, uh, great opportunity for authors.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like the conversation around AI has already morphed so quickly from, I remember at the beginning of the year, there was a lot of doom and gloom speak, and then midway through the year, it was kind of like, oh, this is like an awesome tool. This could help you become so much more productive, especially on the marketing side. Yeah,
It's one of those things where many authors hate talking about themselves, and
for sure.
I hate talking about myself. And like you're writing like a bio or you're writing a blurb, and it's meant to be sales copy. That can be difficult. So there can be some positive use cases for all of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to start bringing up some questions now. Why not?
It's what we're here for, right?
Right? First question. Where'd it
Wait, where'd
go?
it go? There it is.
There it is. From Brett Royal. Thanks for the question, Brett. Brett asks, are there any new platforms that Drafted Digital is trying to add to authors' distribution options?
Oh, I
That
wish
is a
I could
great
tell you.
question. While we're not at a point where we can name names, we have signed 2 contracts recently. So we'll be bringing on most likely 2 new places. We do go through a pretty heavy vetting process, so we test all these to make sure that they are ready for the speed at which we need digital books to go live and whatnot. We try to make sure the infrastructure is all in place before bringing on any new partner. Um, so we'll be starting on some alpha and beta testing internally with both of those pretty soon, and hopefully we'll be able to announce something pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I have to reiterate what Dan says is, and the process of signing on with a new partner is first, no different than finding a really good editor to work with as a writer or cover designer or anyone that you want to work with to collaborate with. Is first making sure that you have similar goals and plans, whatever,
Yeah.
and then figuring out, okay, how does the tech sync up? And the process it can be anywhere from 6 to 9 months on average. I mean, there are some times where it happens a lot quicker, but it's not this quick and easy thing. It's more of a long-term goal. And then of course you have to line up your development resources with the partner's development resources so you can plan and schedule out the testing. It's not just something you can turn on quickly. So, as Dan mentions, we're pretty pumped that in the next little while we'll be able to make some announcements about that. And I have to say, as an author myself, I'm pretty excited.
I'm excited about it too. And at least one of them, we've been talking with them for months and months and months. And it's funny, some of the things that you want to do, but at the same time, you're trying to get the integration done from Smashwords to Drafted Digital. That's taken a lot of our time and our resources away too. But gosh, it's exciting times. Can I bring up the next question here? From Daily Motivation Days, how many books can be published through Drafted Digital for earning handsome income?
What about pretty income? Can you make pretty income? Or does it have to be handsome, gorgeous income?
Really, we don't have a limit on books. We have some small and medium. Yeah, I can't talk today. Medium-sized publishers that work with us. That being said, like we do, we do check for quality, and so we have some people that just submit or try to submit large numbers of books that are not particularly well researched, especially in nonfiction. And so we do have some limits on. We're looking for good quality content. But as far as if you have a big catalog, and we work with a lot of romance authors that got their rights back over the years, and some of them have hundreds of books in their catalog. So it's not really a limit per se, but we do insist on it being good quality content. We insist on it being differentiated, not just regurgitation of free information from the internet.
Yeah, great comment. Okay, can bring up the next one here. From Nice Traveler, can you please clarify the 18 plus filter requirements? There seems to be a lot of confusion around this on the author feeds. Is it aimed more at erotica authors?
Primarily, yes. There's some of the partners, especially library partners, where it's very important that they can differentiate what is suitable for children and teenagers, and so it really is. Like we get that question, and some people wonder like if it's about violence or it
Mhm.
can be like if something is particularly gory, then we might ask you to put that filter on. But it's primarily around erotica content. Um, just kind of the way things are within the U.S. market, which impacts the rest of the world market.
Yeah. Good, good. Were you gonna say something in addition to that, Mark? Okay, just to make sure I don't cut you off there. Um, Here's a question for you, Mark, from Jean Jacobson. Thanks for the question, Jean. She asks, Mark, can you please address how to approach libraries with indie pubbed books?
Oh, that's a great question, Gene. Thanks
Mm,
for asking. So, I like to. You can get into numerous different library platforms through Draft to Digital, right? You get into Overdrive, Hoopla, Biblioteca, Baker and
mhm.
Taylor, BorrowBox, which is outside of North America. It's UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Palace Marketplace, and so making sure to like I would reach out starting with local libraries and let them know your books are available. I love to do a one sheet which sort of has the cover of the book, the ISBN, and if you didn't bring your own ISBN, you can see on your metadata page what our ISBN is that we assign to you, and let them know that they're available through these various distributors. And you can even I'll even put the Overdrive logo and the Hoopla logo, etc., because different
Mhm.
libraries use different platforms. Some libraries use multiple platforms for their different digital libraries. I also, through Draft to Digital Print, or if you're using Ingram or whatever to get your books in print into the libraries, letting them know that there's also a print version available.
Yeah.
I will start local, and I will contact my local libraries, and that's one great way of letting them know, hey, I'm a local author. Libraries love supporting local authors, but also be aware libraries love front list, right? So they may be interested in your backlist titles, and front list just means books that have been published in the last 6 months. So maybe you have the latest book in a series. Let them know about the new book,
Yeah.
and in that you can also say, show the thumbnails for the previous books that are also available. Because if they purchase your new book, they may have patrons who just want to read through the whole series. So I just start local when you're reaching out to your libraries. That's a really, really good hook for you.
I
Cool.
think it's a good like another good thing is let your readers know that they can request books at their library because they don't always know that. But yeah, most of the libraries make it very easy to request a book. Try to be there in all the formats you can. If you're in print, you want to be with someone like us or like Ingram Spark. It's going to be available to the library systems for print. With Amazon, some of the library systems won't buy from Amazon's print program, so just something to be aware of.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say is that we want run promotions, especially with Overdrive, but we've also ran promotions with
Yeah.
Biblioteca and Hoopla, I believe. Take part in all of those. With Overdrives, they run, I don't know, like 4 or 5 big sales at least a year.
Yeah.
And those generally, they just ask for you to specify a percentage off of your books. With libraries, you can price them differently than your retail list price. And so it gives you a little bit more margin to play with and offer more discounts to make your books more appealing to the librarians during these sales.
Yeah. And Mark, you just had a huge promotion with Hoopla, didn't you? Like a month or two ago? That
Yeah,
seemed to
actually,
work
one
out
of my
really
one of
well.
my one of my authors, someone that I publish, she got her first book in a 5 book series into Hoopla, and she went from crickets and one book here, one book there with
Yeah.
Hoopla to selling hundreds of books in the month of the promo. The great thing about these Hoopla promos, and the whole idea is you say, hey, give this to libraries for free, Hoopla, for a period of time, usually a
Yeah.
1 month period, and then what you see is the sort of the I call it the rainbow effect, that post effect where you now see sales of the rest of the series, but you're also seeing sales
Yeah.
of that book one, and that worked out really, really brilliantly. I did post onto the bottom of the screen d2d.tips/d2d promo form, so you can tell us where you're publishing, and Megan will send out invites to these various promos. There is a Overdrive end of year sale that is too late to get into now, but we had sent that out probably about a month and a half ago.
I'm glad you mentioned the part about the librarians and libraries asking for other books that are part of the series, because I heard that from the Smashboard side too, that a librarian may ask for book one in a series, then a month or two later, just come back and purchase the rest of the books in that series sight unseen. That's really, really cool. Thanks for all the questions, everybody. I'm trying to filter through them here. Let's see. Oh, this is a nice one because from Millen Baker, because not everybody knows essentially what wide for the win means. So can we talk about that for a bit? What is the wide to win strategy?
I think since Mark wrote part of the book, at least on this, he should answer this question.
The whole idea is just being open to having your books available to as many different readers on as many different platforms as possible, because you never know where someone's reading. And it's based on the concept that some authors are exclusive to Amazon and their Kindle Unlimited program to get page reads and stuff like that. But there are countries around the world where Google and Kobo and Apple and Smashwords exist, but there is no Amazon store, so they can't even buy your books in those countries. Not to mention somebody like me, if it's not on Kobo as an ebook, I'm not going to buy it because that's where I read my ebooks. So the idea behind Wide for the Win is just having your books available as broadly as possible in libraries, on retailers, selling direct, any way you can increase your odds of having a customer who wants to buy your book being able to find your book once they hear about your book, because you're so awesome that anyone who reads your book is going to tell two friends and so on and so on.
Yeah, if your book doesn't
we should
exist,
definitely. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, if your book doesn't exist on a virtual store shelves, then it's invisible to those readers who may want to purchase your book at their favorite bookstore, and their favorite bookstore may not be Amazon. What were you going to say, Dan?
I was just going to let people know, if they're not already aware, there's a great group that discusses this all the time called Wide for the Win. They've got a lot of different resources for authors talking about how to succeed at being available everywhere. So that's a Facebook group. You just type in Wide for the Win. They also have a Circle group, I guess. I haven't made it over to Circle yet, but they've got
go to
a couple of different ways to interact. Yeah,
wideforthewin.com has a link to the Facebook group and to the Circle group. What I like about Circle is you can find stuff. It's not this random feed of what Facebook wants to show you. It's just writers talking about Wide publishing. So if you're looking for
dance on Circle.
But wideforthewin.com, there's a link to go sign up for. Circle's just a social media app that and it's just locked down to just that topic. So you're not getting distracted by cat videos and arguing with strangers.
Thanks for the question, Malin. Next question, coming right up from R. Samborn. Why do some platforms, this is a good question, why do some platforms take so long to publish compared to others? For example, Scribd took about 2 to 3 months.
With a handful of them, and I'll start with Scribd since you mentioned it. With Scribd's platform, they're kind of rotating content in and out. Primarily, they're not fully unlimited, but like they let people check out a number of books per month, and so they're always trying to kind of bring in and show like fresh content. And so the feed that we send them, we let them know it's available, but they're not always having those books available all the time, and so it just takes a little bit longer because they're trying to manage what their readers are looking for, to keep having new content available to them to get them interested. But also, with their model, if you are reading the maximum, like if a reader's reading the maximum number of books they can per month, then they actually lose a little bit of money, because Scribd is very generous in the payout that they make to authors. A lot of authors don't realize it, but Scribd's model is if you read over, I believe it's 20%, which is, would be the sample size for many of the different bookstores. If a reader reads past that, then you get paid as though a full sale was made. And so it's a really generous subscription model to authors and publishers. But that kind of has some of its own downsides. And so they've kind of got to make sure their platform remains profitable so they can stay in business. Hoopla is another one that's incredibly famous for taking forever. In Hoopla's case, they are getting into the library markets. Their model is the cost per click, and so once a book is available in Hoopla, it shows up in all the libraries that have Hoopla. Unlike with Overdrive, their biggest model and what they're known for is one copy, one user. in which case a librarian, generally the librarian that does the acquisitions, buys your book from a catalog. Then it appears and like readers from that particular library system can see it. And so in that way, the librarians can kind of curate on their own what content is there for their market. With Hoopla, once it's in the catalog, it shows up in the Hoopla app, and so they do a lot more curation, and that just takes time. The margins in the library market are nowhere near what they are for companies like Amazon or Apple, and so they don't have a huge staff, or they haven't automated their review system as well as some of the players that are outside the library systems have. And so it just takes a little bit longer because there's more human eyes checking to make sure that something that they feel would be appropriate to their customers.
Okay. If I could tack on to this question, so let's say that I'm getting ready to release my novel in a couple of months. Do either one of you have any key points or suggestions or advice in terms of how I should plan that out, knowing that some retailers may take longer to get the book out onto the market than others?
With the retailers, like a pre-order is going to be the best way no matter what, and the
Yep.
sooner you have the full asset available, the better. Because like you can set up pre-orders without even having the book done yet. But once you can get them the asset so they can go through their review process, nearly all of the retailers are going to get it up exactly on the release date you specify. The retailers really are rarely the issue. As far as getting into library systems, it's kind of like for any of you that publish an audiobook, you know that it can take a long time to get through, like Audible sometimes, or some of the different audio stores can take a while to do the vetting. With libraries, you just kind of have to be patient. Like you can't really tell people it'll be released on a certain date for any of the library systems right now.
Okay.
I mean, unless you've given it quite a bit of pre-order time, because libraries typically, I mean, usually at the maximum are ingesting titles once per week. And if you miss that cycle, let's say they only ingest on Tuesdays, I'm making that up, particular brand, and you publish on Wednesday at 12:01 a.m., you're going the full week before that ingestion happens. So the longer you get that all the assets up for your pre-order, the better. And we do offer assetless pre-orders, which basically mean you don't have to have the interior file. Most library systems will not accept assetless pre-orders, but most of our retail partners will accept assetless pre-orders, which means you can have the book cover and a beautiful description while it's still being edited and worked on or whatever, and then you upload the final version.
Okay.
And don't worry, our automated systems will remind you, hey, Mark, it's 14 days till you release. You should get it in soon. So that, and the reason we do that is so that it can get into those systems, so that on release day, it's available wide.
Okay. And for pre-orders, is the recommendation still at least 10 business days prior to the public release date to have those files in? Okay.
For when we need the files, there's a little bit of wiggle room in that, but you should try for 10 business days to have your final to us so that it can make it out everywhere. They can get through their review systems, and then it can be ready for your release.
Great. Thank you for the question once again. Ali asks, sorry, I'm squinting my eyes here. Any plans to do full color printing on the inside of books? Another good question.
Currently, we don't have an ETA on that. It's not something we're against, but I think we'll tackle some things that are easier. Full color print's a little bit more difficult, so we'll probably tackle things like we would really like to make large print sizes available and hardbacks available. And so I think those are stuff that we'll be tackling in the near future. Full color printing, I think, would not be within next year.
You also have to think about the costs involved, right? When you're printing in full color, the paper quality is that much more expensive, and so going with the lower hanging fruit, I think, like the hardcover large print. And again, we're not just going to launch it. When we have like a large print, we're going to have a template that you can use, so you can automatically make large print books. You don't have to do all that work, and that's the geniuses on our dev team that all make that magic happen.
We do have some geniuses on that dev team. A.A. Mercer asks, how can I get my book in bookstores? And is there a way to have book signings? through draft to digital?
Virtual book signings with digital books. I mean that's going to be the challenge. And our print on demand, our print solution is a print on demand solution, which means that they are available for bookstores to order. But a lot of bookstores are not going to order books that are non-returnable, and that's the standard default for print on demand. So what I would recommend, AA, is potentially see if you can get a relationship with a local bookstore. A good friend of mine basically had his self-published book, which is available on online bookstores everywhere. But he had a sign on his website because he had a deal with his local bookstore, and this was Owl's Nest in Calgary, beautiful independent bookstore in Calgary, right in the city where he lives. And he said, if you want to order signed copies of the book, order them from Owl's Nest Bookstore, so that his website directed right there. They would call him every couple of weeks and say, oh, could you come in and sign a book for Mark, and sign a book for Jim, and sign a book for Dan.
Yep.
And then they would take care of selling it and shipping it. And he had a consignment relationship directly with them, offering them a 40% off discount of the retail price. And that worked out brilliantly. And then, of course, they also did book signings and stuff like that. So you may want to start, again, I'm a big fan of starting locally and regionally with the relationships that you have with those bookstores.
Then just kind of expand out.
Yeah, as far as making it widely available to the bookstores, we did choose to not enable returns for our print on demand program. It just exposes authors to too much risk.
Yeah.
With the way the return system works, if a bookstore orders 100 copies of your book and then they don't sell, or any portion that doesn't sell, it's where they're losing money. You have to pay the bookstore back for that. And then generally you're not getting the book back either. It's not like you can get them and do something else with them because the shipping costs are so high. They just tear the covers off or shred them. I think, Mark, didn't you have a situation where you ended up paying returns on some books?
I last year I actually had to cut a check for over $1,600 in returns. So it was scary. Unfortunately, I can afford that because my sales were high enough that wasn't a big thing. But that could just really hurt an author, and I'm not a fan of things that hurt authors.
Yeah, we have hopes that the system will change. Like, the return system's kind of antiquated. I would love to see like a limited returns thing where you could let a bookstore purchase a number of copies, but not necessarily let them just go hog wild and pull in 100 without knowing if they will sell or not. But right now, there's just too much risk involved. That's really where traditional publishers come in. That's the risk to them. Their business model kind of plans in for it, but then authors get less money. And so we'd rather give the authors more money and take less risk.
Good answer. And good question, AA. Thank you for that. Going on to Thomas Ray. Is 90 days a good schedule for releasing individual novels in a large series? I love this question because there's always authors talking about this at conferences, and the answer seems to be kind of all over the place, but it seems like it's getting shorter and shorter. So what do you guys think?
I think if you can do 90 days and you're not like stressing yourself out, or like, if that's a comfortable time for you, that's a great, if you can do, there's some algorithms and whatnot that take place with the search engines and the discoverability at the different retailers. And there seems to be at most of them kind of a 90-day fall off point where they promote a new book, it gets a little bit more visibility on their sites. And then once it hits that 90-day mark, it loses some visibility. So if you have another book, it's keeping your brand in front of readers more often. I know many successful authors that do not publish nearly that fast, and I know some that publish faster than that. So I don't think there's a one size fits all. In general, I do feel like the faster you can get a new book out, getting to a certain, I think there are diminishing returns at some point, but if you can get to the point where you can release a book every 90 days, I think that's a great consistent schedule that will help give you the best chance of success.
Yeah.
But again, long-term thinking, don't do it in a way that you're setting up an expectation for readers to get a book every 90 days. And then you got to get off the treadmill, catch a breath for your health, mental health, physical health, whatever it is. Stuff comes up in life that you have to deal with, so you can't write that fast. So just be aware that you don't want to. The last thing you want to do is set up an unrealistic expectation for your readers, because your readers, your fans, the ones who are supporting and buying your books, you want to be able to deliver what they want to them. So be careful about that long-term planning around release schedules.
Yeah, I think we all know authors who
consistency seems to be
burned
the
out.
key.
Yeah.
If you let your author or your readers know, I publish a book a year, and then you meet that expectation, they're going to stick with you. If you start off when you're doing 4 a year and you suddenly cut it to 1 a year, I think you're going to see some unhappy people. Or if you're like George R. R. Martin and you go and don't release the end book for 10 years. So
yeah, good comments and good question. I was going to say, I know of an author who just killed it on her first book. The second novel was coming out. She put it on pre-order and then just kept extending that pre-order date or that release date and extending it and extending it and extending it. And then the reviews started coming in, the negative reviews, before she even released her book. And it was like, oh, come on, folks. Like, she's just trying to live life and get that book done for y'all. Okay. Let's see. Cycling down. This is fun. Where is it? Here it is.
So many great questions.
So many. And I had this one starred and I can't find it. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll find it.
Jim did not believe me when I told him we'd get plenty of questions, and he was worried that we would need more filler content.
Right.
I'm like, if we just open it up to questions, they will just roll in.
Yeah.
Truly inquisitive authors who want to inform themselves. Love you guys for asking such great questions.
Okay. Thanks for this question, Ace. Is there still an overlap with Smashwords as far as retailers are concerned? It seems you have to be sure you don't select the same retailers in both platforms. So this is related to the migration and the implementation of both of our companies.
Haven't we removed that now?
No, there's still an overlap, but we are for new authors. New authors are just getting pushed over to Draft Digital, set up a new account. For existing authors that have been publishing on Smashwords for a while, there still could be overlap. We're going to deal with that. Like, our merge process is going to, if there are like duplicates, we're going to make sure that there's just a single copy, and make sure it's the right one. It's the newest files. Make sure the reviews stick around. We're going to handle all of that. We're getting close to starting to move some of the first accounts from the Smashwords platform over to the Draft Digital platform. So that will be coming, but it's not something as an author you really need to worry about, because that's kind of on us to make sure that stops happening. And we're getting closer and closer, which, I mean, incidentally, that was one of our goals in combining them, because we knew that overlap happened every once in a while, because Smashwords was an opt-out system and ours was Draft Digital was an opt-in system. And so every once in a while, authors wouldn't realize that their books had gone to a particular retailer.
Yep. And being the Smashwords guy, joining the Draft Digital team, and I can't wait for all of the Smashwords authors just to see what you have in store for you with the new dashboard and how things work at Draft Digital. So I think I'm more excited than you are. Next question from T. Ren. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but T is asking, can you touch on your pre-order feature? What do you need from me? So maybe a bit more of a description of how it works, I suppose.
So we, for most of the stores, we really only need a title, a blurb, a price, and a release date. Most of the big retailers are going to let you get away with just that. You can put like a filler book cover, or you can just, like, each of them has like their own sample book cover. Like, if you don't have the book cover yet, many of the romance authors will use this feature to they'll wait for a little bit, and then they'll do like a marketing event around their cover release. Ideally, you would have all those things already have the cover, and then the sooner you can get us the final file, the better. But you don't need to necessarily have a finished manuscript. You can set the pre-order up without a manuscript upload at all. We don't want like dummy files. We don't want like junk files. They're just like worse because if something goes wrong, those files can get distributed to readers, and that causes problems. So we try to catch those as often as we can. But that's more or less all you need. There's some of the retailers, I think the Tolino stores, they do require the book cover before they'll go live. But majority like Apple, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, they all let you do an assetless, no cover pre-order.
And speaking of covers, I love the marketing technique. You can go to a Book Brush, for example, and you can get these covers where you put the cover in and you get the little peel. There's a little bit of peeling as if it's a present that's being unwrapped. And then there's a larger one and a larger one. And I love to see when authors do that and get their readers and their audience is excited about the cover reveal because they can do it in stages, not just all at once, which is fun too.
That's always fun.
You know, earlier we brought up promotions around like Overdrive in the libraries. Many people don't know that there are some promotions, especially at Apple, but at some of the other retailers as well, that are only eligible for pre-orders. And so if you have a pre-order up and if you do pre-orders, that gives you one more opportunity to apply for a promotion that might get you in front of all the readers at Apple, which is quite a few readers. Or I know Kobo does some pre-order promotions as well, right?
But Apple actually has the book people at Apple Books actually read them, so they need those files in advance because then they're recommended by the editorial team at Apple, which is kind of cool. If you have somebody at Apple saying, "Hey, I like this book that's coming out, you should check it out too," but they need a book to be able to read. They can't just go, "Oh, that's a pretty cover."
Since we're touching on pre-orders, I thought perfect timing for Linda's question here. Any upcoming promotions we can join specifically for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas?
Yes, we will. We're going to get them from at least a few of our major retailers. We always do. We always get stuff from Kobo. We always get stuff from Barnes and Noble. Get stuff from Overdrive specifically, and we may have some additional stuff from Hoopla and just sort of end of year stuff coming up. But if you haven't, and I think Melissa dropped it into the comments, the D2D.tip/promo form. Or whatever that URL is, but that promo form, and if you don't know what it is, email support at Draft2Digital and say, "Hey, send me the promo form," and then tell us, "Hi, I'm Linda, and I publish this genre to these platforms through you." And then that way, when Megan is running these promos with our partners, she will send you, Linda, and make sure you check your spam folder. She will send emails to the people and say, "Hey, Linda, you've got books in this genre and Overdrive's doing an end of year sale or a Black Friday sale. Do you want to participate?" And we usually do a major Smashwords one towards the end of the year, don't we, Jim?
Yeah. Starting in mid-December, typically we have the end of year sale, which is almost
where the margin is higher than ever.
Where the margins are, it's typically the biggest sale of the year every single year, and they've just been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, thanks for that question, Linda. Going to try to get as many more of these as we possibly can. Is this one? Yes. From N Lang Books. Will Findaway Voices ever let you upload AI audio?
We can't really answer for Findaway, so no idea.
Okay. The only retailer that accepts AI, Google Play accepts AI only directly published through Google Play. And Kobo Writing Life does, or Kobo accepts AI audio, but most of the retailers don't accept it. So Findaway, like us, is a distributor, and they kind of have to deliver what the retailers. Apple, of course, accepts AI that's published through the awesome Apple AI. How much does that cost for authors, Dan? I saw a question in the comments about that.
Yeah, the Apple Digital Narration is free. It's not available to all genres yet. Right now, it's like romance, women's fiction, mystery, thriller, science fiction, and fantasy. But they have steadily been adding new genres and new capabilities for that. But it's a free program. And basically they process your ebook, they convert it into they've got male or female voices. Sounds pretty good. You can kind of check some of those out if you haven't before. If you go to Apple Bookstore and type in AI narrated books, there's several. They're available for free. But it's a pretty good program, and they're not charging anything for authors to participate in that.
Excellent. Our friend, the last time I pronounced your name, I butchered it. That was a couple of weeks ago, and I've forgotten how to pronounce your name again. Is it
GM.
GM? GMS. A friend of mine wants to buy my first French spy novel as a book. How long after print does it take to get to the retailers for sale? Roughly.
In my experience as an author, I'm saying this because it depends. Different retailers have different ingestion periods. But once I've approved my print book through draft to digital, because a lot of our stuff is automated, it gets into our distribution partner relatively quickly and then gets sent out almost immediately to retail partners. So usually it's within a week. And if it's, typically it's within a week. And that's been my experience. It's actually been less than that. But and sometimes it shows up on Barnes and Noble first before it shows up on Amazon, and I know here in Canada it won't show up on Indigo unless you manually email the Indigo team. But it usually shows up on all those major retailers. It shows on the print books will show up on bookshop.org. They will show up on Books A Million and a whole bunch of other websites.
Awesome.
Unfortunately, with print, it's not as clear cut and as quick as the ebook platforms, where things generally go up at ebook platforms within hours. Print, it varies by the individual retailer. Like, it gets into the overall network, and then they broadcast all different places. And like Mark was saying, we really don't know who it's going to go live at first. It depends on kind of when they're processing the files, and they don't process them as often as ebooks are. That will probably improve in the future, but it's been kind of chaotic. So depending on what retailer they're buying from, you just never know exactly when it's going to be available. Once they show up at the retailer, it's pretty quick. And like when a reader buys a copy of a book, it's prioritized over like author copies or proof copies, and so they have agreements with all the retailers, and they get the books out pretty quick.
Okay. Question here from Janet. Hi, Janet. Janet asks, when I preview my ebook, the minimal style changes to a different formatting at chapter 35. What do I need to do to fix it?
I'm going to suggest. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
I write into our support team, and they will take a look at it. There's probably some hidden code in the Word document. Like, every once in a while, there'll just be stuff that you don't see in the normal document that, sometimes if you copy and pasted from another Word document, or if you started in a previous document, there's just some weird word coding in the background. Yeah. That's generally what causes weirdness like that. But it could be a bug on our side, in which case they'll figure it out and fix it. But the support team is great. They generally get back within hours on emails. And then like Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4 Central, I think you can call and talk to somebody if you want.
But if you're doing it at 1 a.m. on a long weekend and you want to play with the file yourself, go into the Word document, look for, you can turn on the ability to see those hidden characters and things that aren't visible to you. And chances are 9 times out of 10, when I've had an issue like that, 9 times out of 10, oh, look, chapter 35 had some weird gunk in it. And I cleaned up the gunk, loaded it, tried it again, and wow, I figured it out. So you're not waiting until our awesome folks are back in the office on Monday morning.
Yeah, back in the day, I remember breaking out. I would have to break out the Smashboards style guide and flip through all the pages and try to find it. But
that and War and Peace were some really great books that I've read in my lifetime.
Oh, come on. There were lots of pictures.
I feel like we should print off a copy of the Smashboard style guide just to see like how big it is in print.
And frame it.
Yeah, maybe we should make a print on demand version of it, because if you keep it on our shelves, it's a beautiful legacy book.
It is. Yeah. Okay. Whatever you guys just said. we'll go with that. Let's see. This one this might be our last question, but it's kind of related to the previous one. Machi asks, if I pronounce your name correctly, why do sometimes templates overlap with letters in case of print and ebooks? Also, in the case of ebooks, I find that that there are some significant parts of text missing. Wow, that's 2 questions.
I'm not sure I understand the first part of the question. If you think there's parts of the text missing, definitely reach into our support.
Yeah.
Like I'm guessing from the first part of the question, you might be using a non-standard ebook app, and not all the ebook apps interpret books correctly. Like we're using the same ebook apps to test things. I can't remember the name. The Adobe Digital Editions. Is that right, Mark?
Adobe Digital
Yeah,
Editions,
I
ADE.
haven't
Yeah.
used that in years, but yeah, that's what it was.
We use that for a lot of our testing because it's what a lot of the different e-readers use. And then we also look at them within the apps. Like the Apple Books has its own reader. So we test in those, but there's some of the things like if you download it into like Sigil or some of the other like open source products, they don't render things correctly. So I'm guessing that might be what you're talking about. But I mean, it could be like we were mentioning with the last question. There are some code issues that can be in a Word document that can confuse our conversion software. So probably the best is just going to be to write in support and let them take a look at your book. In the normal programs we use, we have several e-readers. We also check it on the devices. So.
Great. I think we have come to time. And here I was, like you said, Dan, worried that, are we going to get enough questions? What happens if nobody asks us any questions? And then it was like, blah. I'm trying to cycle through them all.
It's like a karaoke party where it's hard to get the first two singers up and it's hard to get the first question. But once you get that first question, it just doesn't stop.
Yep. So as we come to a close, I would just like to remind everybody that please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Self-Publishing Insiders. This helps us attract more experts to help you with your authors' careers. It also impacts those algorithms to draw more attention to the show. And also be sure to bookmark d2dlive.com so that each week you can see what the topic is that will be happening the next week and who our guest expert will be as well. And finally, if you do not yet have an account at drafteddigital.com, why not sign up for your free Drafted Digital account, see what it's all about, play with some of the tools, and interact with our world-class customer support team. Now, Mark, was there like a commercial or something that you were going to show here at the end?
Yeah, with a voice we haven't heard echoing in these chambers since last week. Let's say goodbye to everyone, and we'll close out with a special word about one of our great features.
Thanks for joining, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Ebooks are great, but there's just something about having your words in print. Something you can hold in your hands, put on a shelf, sign for a reader. That's why we created D2D Print, a print-on-demand service that was built for you. We have free, beautiful templates to give your book a pro look, and we can even convert your ebook cover into a full wraparound cover for print. So many options for you and your books. And you can get started right now at drafteddigital.com.